Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers lose Sunday night against Minnesota. Did they lose Anthony Davis as well? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday. No matter how or where you get your podcasts, it's always free. It's never behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where over 23,000 subscribers are all hanging out, wondering if Anthony Davis and the Lakers can pull a couple more rabbits out of their collective hats between now and then the end of next week. As the Lakers are hopeful, still trying to move up in the standings. That took a bit of a hit, Andy, on Sunday as the Lakers lose to Minnesota. 127-117 is the final there. Anthony Davis leaving that game with an eye injury. He is whacked on the head again at the end of the first quarter. Again, without a foul being called. He did not return, and that, as we will talk about, really set the Lakers up for failure in Sunday's game because LeBron James already on the sidelines. So we do want to let everybody know that today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code in all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. So Andy, the Lakers started off shorthanded in this one. As LeBron was a semi-late scratch due to flu-like symptoms. And so he went in the lineup. The Lakers, though, as they've done pretty often over the course of this year, performed pretty well without LeBron in the lineup. In that first quarter, they were actually up for most of the first quarter, shot the ball really well, played a good 12 minutes. But then right at the end, Anthony Davis gets hit in the face by Kyle Anderson. And after that, and that was kind of the ball game. The Lakers fought, but Minnesota's just way too big and way too good at that point.
Well, especially too, the margin for error for the Lakers was non-existent without AD. I mean, we've talked about this many times this year. They are as much as the LeBron era for the most part, the swings with or without LeBron, the plus minus without LeBron, net rating without LeBron is night and day. This year, it's really AD that is the biggest difference maker on this team. And the margin for error is just so small without AD. And you saw it in the third quarter. The Lakers were down double digits to begin the second half. And they began the second half just wildly jacking up threes, like really trying to get back into this game, like in the first 3 or 4 minutes. And it only led to falling deeper into a deficit. And then finally, they started slowing down, running the closest thing they could to an offense without having any type of primary hub inside, whether LeBron or AD. Like, if your best option to run an offense through the interior is Rui, who had a terrific game. He had 30 points to lead the Lakers in scoring, played very well, but he's not somebody that you're going to be looking to run your offense through. Like, you're going to be limited in your options, but you need to be at least a
right. And also too, like your post, it's not like you can post up Rui against certain players, but you can't post him up against Rudy Gobert or Naz Reid or guys like that. So
no, and he's not somebody.
There are limitations there,
right? And he's not somebody that is particularly adept at making plays out of the post, something like that. Like, there are limitations, but they started getting just smarter, more decisive, and also just more judicious in terms of their shot selection. They started allowing their defense to turn into offense, led to a lot of running dunks for Jackson Hayes, who we'll talk about later in the show. Hayes was terrific in terms of trying to pick up that slack for Anthony Davis on both ends, but just they were fighting from a decided deficit without LeBron and AD, and it was definitely the wrong game for both D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves to have their shots go MIA.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I think what you said before too. It's like it's the margin for error with no LeBron and no AD against Minnesota. This is not like, yeah, but it's Memphis, you should win anyway. No, I mean, the Wolves second night of a back-to-back, you can lose this game if everybody's there. Like Minnesota's, there's a reason they are currently now after Sunday, they are back to being by virtue of the tiebreaker rules, the top team in the Western Conference. So, you lose that interior presence. You talk about like they were able to get Jackson Hayes going and really cut into that Minnesota lead. And they got the lead down to 4. I mean, they really did do it with defensive pressure, running the floor, getting Minnesota a little bit off balance defensively so they couldn't get set in the half court. I mean, Jackson Hayes, I think, had 8 points in that third quarter in a stretch where all of them were on dunks, either in transition or off the pick and roll. Like really nice plays from Russell, who did not shoot well, but did have 11 assists. Like the only way the Lakers were going to have a chance
against just one turnover,
both D'Lo and Austin Reeves, right? But if both D'Lo and Reeves went on a heater, maybe you can stick in this one. The two of them combined to shoot, I believe it was 3 of 15 from 3-point range. That is not a heater. So. But then, the flip side is like those guys get a tremendous amount of attention when LeBron and AD are not on the floor. So, it was a tall ask for the Lakers to figure out a way to win this game. Gabe Vincent, by the way, also unavailable, not so much an impact thing from an offensive standpoint, but would have maybe given Darvin another option defensively to try to mix things up on the Wolves. But he, for maintenance purposes, wasn't available. So the Lakers were very shorthanded in this. And, I think Darvin talked about it after the game, and I think it's fair. Like, you respect the effort that they put in. Like, they really did try to figure out a way to win this game, played very hard through it. But that's just like, this team, if the team available tonight after LeBron and AD played 82 games, they would be well in the lottery. Like, so there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. Again, the margin for error is low. I thought this was one of the worst games this season from both Austin Reeves and Taurean Prince in terms of just decision-making. I thought both of them, their decision-making in this game was very wild, very shaky. They both seemed extremely sped up. And, it's in this type of game, one of them having a lot of turnovers or having a lot of bad passes, dribbling into problems. You can't have that when you're battling shorthanded against a good team anyway. But both of them, like you mentioned, Gabe Vincent's absence, Gabe might have been getting more time in this game just ahead of Taurean, just because for defensive purposes, you can put him out there. And Taurean was just trying to do too much. I think Austin was trying to do too much. This was also a game, too, where with LeBron not available, and, Anthony Davis this season we've talked about has improved so much as a playmaker out of the post, making reads. You saw the difference, not just between Reeves and D'Angelo Russell as a playmaker with more responsibilities, but even Reeves and Spencer Dinwiddie, like just in terms of the difference between guys who are really point guard, true point guards versus a combo guard in Reeves who can make plays, but he's really not great as one of your most crucial ball handlers and playmakers.
Yeah. This is a point I've tried to make a few times over the course of the season. Austin Reeves is an excellent passer, and he's a good distributor, and he can make some spectacular. We saw on Saturday, a couple of the plays that he made and some of the passes that he made, and he's done it throughout the season, just some spectacular plays. But he is not a point guard. Like, there's a difference between those things.
He's best in chaos.
Organizational. Yeah,
he's best in chaos.
Or on the move or on the break. Or
I think he's best in chaos that is generated by other people, and the chaos is around him, as opposed to him trying to generate the chaos. I think when he tries to generate the chaos,
well, sort of. I mean, I sometimes I actually think like there are moments where, like, I tweeted this out on Saturday, like Reeves leads the league in plays that look like they should be set to the Benny Hill theme that end up in buckets. He does sort of just make these plays that kind of look ugly, and they got like the short dribble where he gets really low and it's off balance and awkward looking, but he still maintains control somehow and they score. But it wasn't there for him on Sunday. And, I think when you say like trying to do too much was really the key with him and Torian. There's this feeling when you're down big and you're missing your stars, like, oh my, here's an opening. I gotta go score. I gotta go do something. Yeah. I think it was particularly so with Torian. Every time he felt like he had nobody, I gotta go run the break. I mean, 1-on-4, not being aware of who's behind it. It wasn't a good game for him. Let's talk about the eye injury. Conflicting reports following the game, but some reasons for optimism as the Lakers head into a massive game on Tuesday against Golden State. So we'll do all that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Prize Picks, and Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. The easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports is just you against the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 or more player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the playoff action. Win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's upcoming postseason. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball and hockey entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Prize Picks also offers Apple Play now for quick and easy deposits into your account. This basketball season, again, simple to play. You can make your picks and submit your entries in less than 60 seconds. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
So after the game, Darvin Ham, he was asked about Anthony Davis, and he was very adamant there are no updates. Which is what you would expect the head coach to say in a situation like this is, I'm not going to promise anybody anything. But before the game was over, Dave McMenamin at ESPN actually had tweeted out that there is some optimism, according to sources around the team, that Davis will be available for Tuesday's game. So certainly I would expect the Lakers to officially play it quite close to the vest and not really say anything about it. But the fact that somebody was confident enough to tell Dave that they are at least hopeful is a good sign, because presumably LeBron will be back from his illness by Tuesday. But like, if the Lakers have any hope of moving back up into the 8 seed, they fell back to the 9. Both Sacramento and New Orleans winning on Sunday. So it was a tough night for the Lakers in the standings. They got to win out. If they have any meaningful chance of moving up, they got to win out.
Yeah. I would expect LeBron to play too. I mean, it had been reported that he showed up to the arena with the intention of trying to play, but he just felt sicker and sicker, and he didn't even stay for the game. He went home. Like, he just
felt, if you're not going to play and you've got it's not like a knee. If you're sick, go home.
Right.
Because the last thing you want to do is get everybody else sick.
Right. Exactly. But just so people understand, he wasn't even in the building for the game. AD, fingers crossed. When he had the original corneal abrasion, if memory serves, he did not miss any games other than the Golden State game. That he actually injured himself. I believe he played the following game afterwards. So hopefully that is the case, because as we saw in that game where he got hurt against Golden State, the game went to bleep the minute Anthony Davis was unavailable, and that was with LeBron. That's just, they are a completely different team without Anthony Davis. The Warriors will have a difficult time specifically with that AD matchup. It also raises the question that was talked about on Spectrum Sportsnet, the Lakers television partners, after the Golden State loss, after a game in between that one and this one where AD got hit in the exact same eye, and then after tonight's loss to the Wolves about whether or not Anthony Davis should be wearing some type of protective eyewear. Like I tweeted out during the game at Cam Brothers, every Lakers game now feels like a league coordinated tough love intervention to convince Anthony Davis to start wearing goggles.
Look, we're just going to keep letting you get hit in the face, and we're not going to call a foul until you put a pair of goggles on.
This is what he's going to look like if he doesn't start putting on some goggles, man. Like he's going to look like Schwarzenegger in the Terminator when they took out that left eye and you just saw that red dot in there. Like it's something.
By the way, if that happens and you still see the red dot, that's a headline. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like that actually is something that could break the internet with good cause.
But just for whatever reason, AD's face is vulnerable in that exact spot. And, like, look, I know players hate wearing that stuff. Rui began, the first, 20-ish games of this season. He was dealing with that mask that it was so clear he hated. He was missing a lot of shots because it was obvious the guy couldn't see. Like, there's a reason players avoid this stuff whenever they possibly can. But at the same time, he keeps getting hit in the same spot. And James Worthy and Kareem managed to end up with Hall of Fame jersey retired careers while wearing goggles. Like, AD can make it work. Like, he actually can make it work.
It just sometimes it just becomes like a necessity. Like, at some point, like medically, like if you take another shot to your eye, like it's, there could be some vision issues. It's like somebody at some point, like you hope it doesn't get there, but at some point it just, you need to put the thing on. And I wonder we
need to find an eye doctor in LA who is a massive Laker fan who will just tell Anthony Davis this is necessary.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, somebody might have already recommended Reddit and said, like, can't make the guy wear them. Like, it's not like Little League where, your dad or your mom can be like, you can't play unless you wear your neck guard in the hockey game, even though you're the only player on either team who ever wears a neck guard. I'm sorry. Are we still talking about Anthony Davis? Like the entire season, you see one guy wearing a neck guard, and it's when you look in the mirror before a game. But so lame. Anyway,
it's not as bad. It's not like you're Joan Cusack in 16 Candles with that headgear.
No, but I will say in the mid 90s,
you were Joan Cusack.
I did have headgear too. But thankfully, mom and dad did not make me wear that during hockey games. They were adamant I wear my mouthpiece, but I did not have to wear my headgear during games. I was, just to clarify,
you were a mess.
Our orthodontist said that I had the worst mold. Like, they take that mold of your teeth or whatever back in the olden days before lasers and all that. He said it was the most grotesque mold he had ever seen.
I mean,
I did have to wear the headgear, but I did not have to wear it during the day like Joan Cusack did. I was only at nighttime. And,
no, but
and
I mean, you had
also
foot braces.
Friends
came
over.
You were a mess.
I had rubber bands. I had braces. I had everything, all of it. But I mean, you're the one with a gap in your teeth, though. So,
oh well.
I'm just saying. It eventually, it worked. But it's either his choices are either at this point, a goggles or an eye patch. It's like I think those are the two things you can wear. And while an eye patch would be intimidating, it is hard to play with one eye. So, I mean, look, I hope that Dave's report is correct and that, but I mean, there is optimism that he'll be able to play is different than Anthony Davis can be able to play. Like you wake up tomorrow and like a corneal abrasion or, it depends. Like, was the damage, did he get scratched in the eye? Like did something, because if anybody's ever had a corneal abrasion, they are extremely painful. And sometimes you got to keep your eye closed for 2 days or 3 days for that to heal. If it's a cut or a bruise or something around the eye, then, by Tuesday or something, he probably can open it and be able to play. But I'm not until somebody definitively from the organization says he's going to play and it's on the record and on the injury report, I am worried because this is where they are. Like there is no margin for error left. There are only 3 games, and the difference between 9 and 8 is huge. And so, we'll see.
It's just yet another night, too, before we go to the break, where the West, forget not cooperating, it feels like the West is specifically not cooperating with the Lakers. Like, Phoenix has been doing all this winning, except the one time it was like, okay, can you win a game? Like, this would be better if you beat the Pelican. Like, it's just...
we joked about it on the mini show and on Saturday and made fun of me about it. But like, I was kidding about the incredible run the Lakers have been making since the All-Star break to try to move up one spot for 12 hours in the standings, basically. Yep. And like, again, they've had a record that puts them at the top of the conference. It's like a 50 something win pace for, since, early February. And they can't move in the conference because the conference is that good. We'll talk a little bit more about the seeding. We should mention a little bit more Jackson Hayes too, because this was a great game for him on Sunday. We'll do all that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by LinkedIn. And when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn, it's not just another job board. They have a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, billion with a B, that makes it the best place to hire, gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. They do all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. In fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses, they're wearing a lot of hats at once. You're juggling a lot of balls. You don't have much time or the resources to hire. And that's why LinkedIn's constantly finding new ways to make this process streamlined. They even launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process quicker, easier, streamlined. 2.5 small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Jackson Hayes has been a bit of a roller coaster over the course of the year. And I still don't, he is limiting to some degree when he is your only other big on the roster. No disrespect to Colin Castleton. But he's in a nice little run. And I think the Lakers have kind of figured out how to use him, where he can be best deployed. And, it's not really his fault that there isn't another big available around him. But overall, like, he's kind of, to me at least, gone from that wild swings of good, bad runs and all that stuff to a relatively, over the last, when they've needed him over the last, 15, 20 games, pretty good. Like, not perfect, but pretty good, for a third center, especially.
Ever since he re-entered the rotation, the first half of the season was him and Christian Wood replacing each other constantly as AD's backup. There have been periods where Darvin was trying to play them both in the rotation, and it just isn't possible when you're going to be playing AD and LeBron and Rui, the type of minutes that they get in the front court. There's not enough time for two backup centers for either one of them to get any type of rhythm. And frankly, there's no reason to play them both. Yeah. But ever since Hayes, I think, re-entered the rotation, he's been largely pretty good. And this game, he was fantastic. He had 19 points on 8 of 9 shooting, 10 rebounds, 2 on the offensive glass, 5 steals, a block, and in 33 minutes, just 3 fouls. And fouls for a while. That's
the big thing. For him to be able to play in this game, the amount of minutes against the size of the players he was playing against. I mean, I know we had fun with his foul-free stretch earlier in the year, But like, this is a big deal. Play 33 minutes and only have 3 fouls. You know, through much of his career and earlier in the season, he would have lasted about 7 minutes in this game.
Yeah, I mean, he for a while was like the new generation's Travis Knight, and that was one of the big things keeping him off the floor. But he's talked about before how the coaching staff has really worked with him about, you know, keeping his hands in certain positions where he's not as vulnerable to getting called, and just more awareness of it. And he's gotten much better in this game. I thought on both ends he was really good. He was very disruptive, challenging shots. He was all over the place, either grabbing rebounds, boxing other guys out, tapping balls out. It was just a terrific game with him running the floor, his activity. You know, they would have been in a lot. I mean, they lost the game, but they wouldn't have even been able to, I think, find a few of the sparks that they had in the second half had Jackson Hayes not played as well as he did.
Whenever he was off the floor, they got throttled. I mean, I know some people were like, "Oh, put Castleton in." They ran Rui at the 5. They tried to. I think that's fine. You know, run with the players you have. The guys who've been in the rotation know what they're doing, and like, see, you're basically trying to, you know, catch a miracle either way. So you might as well catch a miracle with the guys who have actually been playing. But I think with Hayes, you know, it really is a shame. The Wood injury is a shame, not just for the Lakers because it robs them of another center, but you need a different guy in there so that in those matchups where Hayes isn't the right guy, or, you know, he's just, you know, you can't expect Hayes to be, you know, this every night. If he was, he wouldn't be on a veterans minimum contract for the Lakers to be able to snatch him up. But you see, like, I mean, I cannot fathom what it must be like to be that big and that athletic, like just be able to run the floor the way he can. I mean, each one of these dunks were throwing back over his head. Like the hop off the floor is insane. Like the explosion and the ability to get up, you know, I mean, I realize he's 7 feet tall, but he could probably dunk on a 13-foot basket. Like, the guy's, he's crazy.
He is remarkably explosive for his size.
Like, they might actually be in a sweet spot here where he's played well enough that you're like, oh, you know, I kind of like the role here, and you know, it makes some sense, and he's got a place to play. That, again, you need a different center. You need another player who can play with him. But an NBA roster should have more than 2 centers anyway. And I don't necessarily know if he's outplayed his contract, though, so wildly that somebody else would like sign him to a mini mid-level, like, you know, the taxpayer mid, or, you know, somebody, maybe he's up to $2 or $3 or $4 million a year for next year. Somebody sees a potential, but it wouldn't totally shock me if the Lakers were able to hold on to him for next year. He's got a player option.
Yes.
So they'd have to opt out. I don't think it's guaranteed that somebody's going to like swoop in and give Jackson Hayes $5 million a season. I would love it if the Lakers could hold on to him and find a way to really tailor him into the proper role, because he has been a pleasant surprise, I think, overall. And as long as you keep the expectations in check, he's not going to fulfill the dreams of a, you know, mid-lottery pick and, you know, blossom into this, you know, late blooming all-star kind of guy. Like, but he could be this, and this is pretty useful.
Here's the problem for the Lakers. I agree with you. It's not a given that someone's going to swoop in with an offer somewhere between like a taxpayer mid-level and like biannual, something like that. But I also don't think it would be shocking if someone offered him $5 to $6 million a year, because he's had, I think, on balance, a very good year, and he's only 23. And it would be easy, I think, for another team to say, okay, look at how Jackson Hayes looks the minute he's part of a much more competent organization with more of a definitive direction. And, you know, with somebody like Phil Handy that's considered renowned for developing players, if we believe in our own internal development, we might be able to get him to the next level, especially too, like, you know, you look at the way Rui has become a much different player with the Lakers than he was with the Wizards, the way Hayes has played this year. You know,
Rui, though, is a much more skilled player than Jackson Hayes.
Right. But the point being, though, you see guys when they are young often need to get out of the environment that they were in, particularly, you know, Malik Monk, Jackson Hayes, Rui Hachimura. What do they have in common? They all played for pretty crappy organizations to begin their career. They were often rudderless, and young guys will suffer with their development. All three of these guys have been much better. You know, the Lakers are an imperfect organization the way they are run, but they are far, far better than those three.
Oh, and with the stability, with aspirations, with a leader in LeBron James and Anthony Davis who, you know, demand and exemplify certain things, more roster. I don't want to say roster stability because there's been tons and tons of turnover, but it's different, at least.
It's a more serious organization than the Wizards, the Hornets, and the Pelicans. So that could give another team optimism in terms of offering Jackson Hayes money that the Lakers can't
or won't
won't finagle away to match.
It'll
be interesting.
Yeah, it is, and like you say, like, is 5 or 6 million? No, but like 2 or 3, 4, you know, something like that. You know, I think it just depends on, like, if you think, you know, you can carve out a 15-minute a night role for the guy, and that's worth it to you. But I would like to, like, I don't think Christian Wood is going to be back next year. Just don't feel that vibe.
Well, unless he opts into his own player option,
right? But I'm not even sure. I don't know how strong the vibes are on that, but like
I don't either. But he maybe
not. I don't know. But like we'll say two things. I'm not sure the Lakers want to run it back with that center group either way. I think you can keep one of those guys. I don't think you can keep two. Ideally, if they both opt in, you got to figure something out. But they need to do better next year than they did this year. And so I don't know if you want that anyway, but yeah, it would not bother me if they could find a different, I would say, primary backup center. And so you have Hayes as your sort of situational guy or something like this, or like, you know, again, to be, you know, you're somebody who play a few more minutes in a season where Anthony Davis maybe doesn't play 70 games or something like that. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to hang out, see the show, talk to over 23,000 subscribers. Leave us questions, leave us comments. We read them every day. We try to respond on the YouTube page and use comments for the show as well. We will see everybody tomorrow. Get you ready for the big Tuesday game against the Warriors. Everyone have a great day.